welcome back to my channel. My name is Savannah, and if you're new here, please don't forget to subscribe and give this video a thumbs up if you like it. In today's video, we are going to talk about how objective moral values point to the existence of God. Now, before I get into it, I want y'all to know that I'm not saying you have to know God or even believe in God in order to behave morally. We all know that's not true. The question I'm going to answer is, does an objective standard for morality exist? And if so, where does it originate from? First and foremost, we need to establish that objective morality exists. Some people argue that there is no such thing as objective morality. They claim that only subjective morality exists and that there is no real standard of right and wrong. But if you've ever said something along the lines of, "Hey, that's not fair," or "You did me wrong," then what you're actually doing is appealing to some sort of standard outside of yourself because you expect others to adhere to this same standard. The people that claim there is no real right and wrong will contradict themselves not even a minute later, saying something like, "You're being judgmental," or "You're being unfair." But if that's only your subjective standard, and if no real objective standard exists, then you cannot accurately make these claims about someone else's behavior, because it would only be true for you. But of course, we know that that isn't true because objective standards do exist. C.S. Lewis puts it this way in his book, Mere Christianity. It seems then, we are forced to believe in a real right and wrong. People may be sometimes mistaken about them, just as people sometimes get their sums wrong, but they are not a matter of mere taste and opinion any more than the multiplication table. There is a real standard of right and wrong that we didn't invent, and we also know that we should obey it. We all know that murdering helpless babies is wrong. We all know that what Hitler did was wrong. We don't need the government, teachers, or our parents to inform us that these things are wrong because inherently we already know this. So how do we know this? Where does this knowledge about right and wrong come from? Well, the Bible gives us a pretty big clue when it says in Hebrews chapter 10, "This is the covenant that I will make with them after those days, declares the Lord. I will put my laws on their hearts and write them on their minds." And in Romans chapter 2, which says, "They show that the work of the law is written on their hearts, while their conscience also bears witness, and their conflicting thoughts accuse or even excuse them on that day, when, according to my gospel, God judges the secrets of men by Jesus Christ." And C.S. Lewis makes a great point about these moral laws as a clue to the meaning of the universe when he says, "There is one thing, and only one, in the whole universe which we know more about than we could learn from external observation. That one thing is man. We do not merely observe men, we are men. In this case, we have, so to speak, inside information. We are in the know. And because of that, we know that men find themselves under a moral law which they did not make and cannot quite forget even when they try, and which they know they ought to obey." If we know that objective moral laws exist outside of ourselves, then it would only be logical to conclude that there is an objective moral law giver, and this could only be the transcendent being known as God. And it's not even that God gives us this standard, it's that God is the standard. Anytime, anywhere, someone says something like, "Well, nobody's perfect," that person is making a claim based on some standard of perfection. In order for something to be imperfect, it follows that there is some perfect standard, or else you couldn't even make that claim. If you say something is bad, then you're affirming that you believe there is good. And the reason why we know this standard of perfection and goodness is because that's who God is. God is the standard of perfection and goodness. And anytime we label something as good or bad or right and wrong, we are appealing to and affirming God's own standard, which is Himself. Well, that's all I have for today's video. I thank y'all so much for watching. I will see y'all in my next video. And as always, don't forget to thank God for waking up this morning.